Parker Tilden was already late for his second job when his 5-year-old son, Oliver, spilled apple juice all over the only clean shirt he had left. "Buddy," Parker sighed, crouching down to wipe the sticky mess. "I know you didn't mean to, but you're killing me here." Oliver frowned, chubby cheeks puffed out. "Sorry, Daddy." Parker ruffled his son's hair and forced a smile. "It's okay, we'll figure it out." They were parked in the grocery store lot where Parker worked overnight restocking shelves. He had just dropped Oliver off at his sister's place 2 blocks away when he noticed a sleek, black car with its hood up and a woman standing beside it, looking completely lost. He ignored it at first. He didn't have time to play hero. But the way she kept glancing around worried, pacing, biting her lip did something to him. He pulled up beside her old BMW, battery dead. The woman turned. She was stunning, not in a glossy, magazine kind of way, but in an effortlessly real way. Her ponytail was falling apart, her cheeks were flushed, and her hands were smudged with something dark. I think so, it just died, and of course, I left my phone at home. I'm such an idiot." Parker stepped out. "You're not an idiot, pop the hood." She blinked. "Wait, really? You know how to fix it?" "I know how to jump it," he said, grabbing the cables from his trunk. "I'm Parker." She gave him a grateful smile. "Sierra." Their hands brushed when she passed him the red clamp. Her fingers were cold. He tried not to think about that. 5 minutes later, her engine roared back to life. Sierra gasped, "You did it. Oh my God, thank you." "No problem." "I mean it. I was stuck here for over an hour. I was about to start crying." He gave a tired laugh. "Well, I've been there." "Let me pay you back," she said quickly. "Seriously, name it. Coffee, dinner, new jumper cables." "I'm good." "Please, I feel like I owe you." Parker hesitated. His stomach was growling. He hadn't eaten since noon. "You know what? Coffee sounds amazing." They ended up at a cheap diner half a block away. Sierra paid before he could argue. She ordered pancakes and coffee. He ordered eggs and toast and tried not to inhale it. "So," she asked, stirring cream into her mug, "you always save stranded women in parking lots." He smiled, "Only on Tuesdays." She laughed. He liked the way she laughed. It wasn't forced. It wasn't polite. It was real, full of surprise, like she didn't expect to find anything funny today. They talked for an hour. He told her he was a single dad, that Oliver's mom had left 2 years ago and never looked back. He didn't go into details. She didn't pry. She told him she worked in event planning and had just moved to the area. "I don't usually drive that car," she explained. "It was my dad's. He passed 6 months ago. I took it out today because I missed him." Parker nodded. "I get it. My dad taught me how to jump a battery." There was a beat of silence, soft and comfortable. "I should get going," he said finally, checking the time. "I'm late for work." Sierra stood up with him. "Wait." He turned. She pulled a pen from her purse and scribbled something on a napkin. "This is my number, in case you ever need anything, or coffee, or a break from being superdad." He stared at the napkin. She smiled. "You saved me. Let me return the favor sometime." He wasn't the kind of guy who believed in fate or magic or any of that. His life didn't allow for it. But something about the way Sierra was looking at him made his chest tighten. He took the napkin. "Thanks." 3 days passed before he called her. He almost didn't. He stared at the napkin every night after Oliver went to sleep. He told himself she probably just felt sorry for him, but that smile of hers wouldn't leave his head. When she picked up, she said his name before he could even say hello. "Parker." He laughed. "Yeah, hey. You actually called." "I did." Good, she said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. You busy tomorrow? They met at a small park. Sierra brought sandwiches. Parker brought Oliver. This is Sierra, he told his son as she crouched in the grass beside him. Hi, Sierra, Oliver said shyly. You're really pretty. Sierra laughed. Well, you're my new favorite person. Parker watched them talk like they'd known each other forever. Sierra helped Oliver build a tower out of sticks and leaves, and when it fell over, she made him laugh instead of cry. The three of them stayed until the sun dipped low, and Sierra's fingers were stained green from grass. She looked at Parker as they packed up. I like him, she said. I like you, he said before he could stop himself. Her eyes widened, then she smiled. Good. Over the next few weeks, Sierra became a part of their lives. She came over with groceries when Parker's fridge was almost empty. She offered to watch Oliver on the nights Parker couldn't find a sitter. She brought coffee to his job with little notes written on the cups. One night, after a long shift, Parker came home and found a basket on his doorstep. Inside was a new pair of work boots, a gift card to the grocery store, and a note that said, You take care of everyone. Let someone take care of you for once. He didn't even realize he was crying until Oliver patted over in his pajamas and hugged his leg. Daddy. I'm okay, bud. But he wasn't okay. He was in love. And it scared the hell out of him. Parker stood in the entrance of his apartment, wet from the rain, holding a paper bag that had already started to rip at the corners. He set it down on the counter and shook out his jacket, his bones aching from another shift that had ended long after midnight. The apartment was quiet, except for the low hum of the heater and the occasional creak from the pipes. He peered into the small bedroom down the hall. Oliver was asleep, a book still open across his chest and one sock halfway off. Parker gently pulled the blanket up to cover him, then stepped back, rubbing the tiredness from his eyes. In the kitchen, he opened the bag and took out a loaf of bread, a few bananas, and a carton of milk. It wasn't much, but it would stretch until payday. He leaned against the counter, wondering how long he could keep juggling everything without dropping something that mattered. By the time he got a few hours of sleep and woke to the sound of Oliver banging his spoon against a cereal bowl, his phone was buzzing on the table. He checked it, surprised to see Sierra's name on the screen. Hey, he answered, voice still rough from sleep. I know it's last minute, but I have to ask, are you free tonight? He looked at Oliver, who had milk running down his chin and was grinning up at him like he'd won the lottery just for being awake. That depends, Parker said. What's going on? I pulled strings and got into a charity event at the Avalon. Black tie, champagne, ridiculous auction items. I need someone who will keep me from falling asleep during speeches about yacht taxes. Parker blinked. You want me to go with you to that? You're the only person I know who won't lie to me about how boring it is. Also, you own a suit, right? He glanced at the closet where his old wedding suit still hung, barely worn since that day. I'll figure something out. Sierra's voice softened. If it's too much, I understand. No, he said quickly, surprising even himself. I'll be there. That night, he stood in front of the mirror, tying a borrowed tie from his neighbor, who was half a foot shorter and had questionable taste in color. The suit still fit, barely. He'd skipped dinner to make sure Oliver had his favorite peanut butter and jelly with apple slices and dropped him off at his sister's before catching the bus across town. The Avalon was the kind of place that didn't even have numbers on the building, just a gold crest above a double set of glass doors. A valet opened one for him without a word, and Parker stepped inside, instantly aware of how out of place he looked. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a sea of gowns and tuxedos. Servers floated by with trays of wine. A string quartet played somewhere near the back wall, their music barely audible over the hum of wealthy chatter. He spotted Sierra near the bar. And for a moment, nothing else existed. Her hair was pinned back, and she wore a gown that shimmered like moonlight. Not flashy elegant, timeless. She turned just as he started walking, and her face lit up like she'd been waiting all night just to see him. "You clean up well," she said, looping her arm through his. "You look," he trailed off. No word felt right. She tilted her head. "Speechless already, we haven't even made it to the silent auction." They made their way through the crowd, and Parker tried not to stare too hard at the people who looked like they'd stepped out of magazine ads. Men with watches that probably cost more than his car. Women whose laughter sounded rehearsed. "You okay?" Sierra asked, watching him closely. "I'm fine," he said. "Just wondering if anyone's going to notice. Restitched this jacket myself." She laughed, not in mockery, but with something close to affection. "If they do, I'll tell them you're a brilliant up-and-coming designer." They stood near a sculpture carved entirely out of ice as a speaker took the stage and began to drone on about tax incentives for donors. Sierra leaned closer. "See, this is why I needed you." Parker whispered, "I think the sculpture is melting out of boredom." She bit her lip to keep from laughing, and in that moment she looked younger, freer. Then someone called her name. A man in a navy tuxedo approached, tall and polished, with the kind of confidence that came from never needing to worry about money. He greeted Sierra with a kiss on the cheek and then looked at Parker. "And you are?" "This is Parker," Sierra said before Parker could speak. "He's my date," Parker finished smoothly, offering his hand. "Nice to meet you." The man didn't take it. "Right." He turned back to Sierra. "Your mother's looking for you. She's near the front." "Thanks," Sierra said, her voice tightening. As the man walked off, Parker raised an eyebrow. "Friend of yours?" "More like a family obligation. That's my cousin, Grant. He's charming once you get past the sneer." Parker didn't respond, but he kept his eyes on Grant until he disappeared into the crowd. Sierra sighed, "Come on, let's get some air." They stepped out onto the balcony, where the city lights stretched like a river of gold. Parker leaned against the railing, and Sierra rested her hands beside his. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly. "I know this isn't exactly your scene." He looked at her. "Why'd you want me here?" She hesitated, then said, "Because everyone in that room looks at me and sees a version of who they think I'm supposed to be. Except you." He didn't know what to say to that, so he reached for her hand instead. She let him. They stood in silence for a while, the wind tugging gently at her hair. Then she turned toward him. "I want to tell you something," she said, "but it's not easy." He nodded, waiting. "My dad left me a trust," she said, voice low. "It activates next month. It's a lot, more than I know what to do with. I don't usually tell people." Parker blinked. "Why are you telling me?" "Because I want to be honest. With you, and because I need you to know I didn't help you because I felt sorry for you. I helped you because you matter." He didn't speak. He couldn't. Something behind his ribs ached in the best way. She touched his face. "Say something." He took a breath. "I haven't let anyone in since Oliver's mom left. Not really, but I'm trying with you. I want to try." Her eyes softened. "Then try." And he did. He leaned in, and their lips met, not rushed, not desperate, but real. The kind of kiss that held a promise neither of them had said out loud yet. When they pulled apart, Sierra smiled. "I think we just made this gala bearable." Parker laughed, but inside something was shifting, something real. He didn't know what came next. But for the first time in years, he wasn't afraid to find out. Parker stood frozen at the door of Sierra's apartment, still damp from the downpour that had followed him from the train station. He hadn't planned to come here, not tonight, not like this, but as he'd sat by Oliver's bedside watching his son's fever rise, the fear had settled into his skin like cold. He needed help. More than that, he needed her. Sierra opened the door in leggings and a loose sweater, barefoot, her hair swept up in a way that made her look softer than he'd ever seen her. She took one look at his face and stepped aside without a word. Once he was inside, she closed the door and wrapped her arms around him. He didn't move for a moment. Then he let his chin drop to her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he said, voice low. "Don't be. What happened?" He pulled back, rubbing a hand over his face. "Oliver's sick. Fever hit hard this morning and it won't break. My sister's with him now, but I panicked. I didn't know who else to call." "You did the right thing coming here," she said, leading him to the couch. "Sit, you look like you haven't slept." "Haven't." He sank down, elbows on his knees. "I called into both jobs. Can't afford to, but there's no way I'm leaving him like that." Sierra disappeared into the kitchen. When she came back, she handed him a steaming mug and a clean towel. "Dry off, drink, then you're going back to your son and I'm coming with you." He looked up startled. "Sierra, you don't have to." "I know I don't have to," she said, firm. "I want to. You're not doing this alone anymore." There was no pity in her eyes, only fire, and something steadier than he'd seen in anyone in a long time. When they got to his sister's apartment, Oliver was curled on the couch, pale and flushed, with a damp cloth on his forehead. Parker crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside him. "Hey, buddy, I'm here." Oliver blinked slowly. "Daddy, my head hurts." "I know," Parker whispered. "We're gonna fix it." Sierra sat beside them and gently took Oliver's hand. "You're a brave little guy," she said. "I brought you something." From her bag, she pulled out a small stuffed fox wearing a cape. Oliver managed a faint smile. "He looks like a superhero," he murmured. "He is. His name's Jet. He's very good at chasing away fevers." Parker's sister watched from the doorway, arms folded. "You didn't say she was this good with kids." "She's full of surprises," Parker said, meeting Sierra's eyes. Later, when Oliver was finally asleep again and his sister had gone to the kitchen to make tea, Parker found Sierra standing at the window, watching the street below. "You didn't have to do all that," he said quietly. She turned. "I know, but I'm not going to pretend like I'm just passing through your life. I'm already in it." He stepped closer. "This isn't easy. I don't always know how to let people in." "I don't need easy," she said. "I need real." He reached for her hand, and she laced her fingers through his without hesitation. "You've seen what my life is," he said. "It's messy, it's hard. Some days I don't have anything left to give." "Then I'll hold the line on those days," she said. "And on the days when I don't, you will." He let out a long breath. "How did it find you in a grocery store parking lot?" "You didn't," she said softly. "We found each other." The next morning, Oliver's fever broke. Sierra made pancakes in Parker's cramped kitchen while he and Oliver played a board game on the floor. She wore one of his old flannel shirts over her clothes, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows. The smell of burned batter filled the apartment, but no one complained. "Are you my dad's girlfriend now?" Oliver asked suddenly, mid-move. Parker froze. Sierra didn't. She smiled at Oliver and leaned down. "What do you think?" Oliver shrugged. "You made pancakes, that's a girlfriend thing." "I guess that settles it," Parker said, finally breathing again. Sierra looked over her shoulder at him. "Guess it does." They spent the rest of the day together walking to the farmer's market, letting Oliver pick out vegetables they both knew he wouldn't eat, and stopping by the bookstore where Sierra used to work part-time during college. She introduced Parker to the owner, who immediately handed her a stack of new releases before turning to Parker with narrowed eyes. "So this is the mysterious man you mentioned." Sierra elbowed him gently. "Be nice." "I'm always nice," the owner said, "especially to people who make her laugh like that." As they walked out, Parker said, "I didn't realize you talked about me." "You're hard not to talk about." He looked at her, something opening in his chest like a door that had been locked for too long. That night, after Oliver was asleep, they sat on the couch with a blanket over their legs and the city lights flickering outside the window. Parker turned toward her. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the future." "Okay," she said, cautious. "I don't have much to offer. I don't have money or a big house or weekends off, but I have Oliver, and I have love, and can promise you that I won't run when things get hard." Sierra didn't speak for a moment. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. He frowned. "What's this?" "Something I wasn't sure when to give you." He opened it and pulled out a folded paper. His eyes scanned it and then widened. "This is a deed." "It's for a house," she said, "a real one with a backyard. I put in an offer last week. It's in both our names." He stared at her, stunned. "Sierra." "I'm not buying you a life, Parker. I'm offering you a home, one we build together." He looked at her, really looked, and saw not just the woman who had walked into his life with a dead car battery, but the one who had brought it back to life. He set the paper down, leaned in, and kissed her slowly, deliberately, like every promise he'd never dared to make was now resting on his lips. When he pulled back, he said, "Let's go home." The house smelled like freshly sanded pine and possibility. Parker stood in the middle of the living room, holding a paint roller in one hand and listening to the echo of Oliver's footsteps as he ran through the upstairs hallway. The sun poured in through the massive windows, catching the dust in the air like glitter on warm wind. Sierra was on her knees across the room, taping the baseboards, her hair tied up with a pencil stuck through the knot. "Tell me again why we thought painting this ourselves was a good idea," she said, squinting up at him. "Because we're stubborn and pretending to be normal people," Parker replied, "and because you said you wanted us to build it with our own hands." Believe those were the exact poetic words. She rolled her eyes and tossed a balled-up piece of tape at him. He caught it without flinching. "I meant metaphorically," she said. "I didn't think it would end with blisters." "You think this is bad? Wait until we hit the cabinets." "I'm hiring someone for the cabinets." "No, you're not." "Am absolutely hiring someone for the cabinets." Parker crossed the room and crouched beside her. "This is ours, every inch of it. We're allowed to take our time." She looked at him, her expression softening. "I don't want to take my time with you." He kissed her quickly, before Oliver's footsteps returned. "I found my astronaut socks," Oliver shouted, skidding into the room, one sock already on sideways. "Can I wear them to school every day in the new house?" Parker stood. "If your teacher doesn't mind, I don't see why not." "What if she hates space?" "Then I'll talk to her," Sierra said. "I know people." "You do not know my teacher." "I know everyone important." Oliver grinned and ran back upstairs. Parker watched him go, then turned to Sierra. "He's happier than I've seen him in a long time." "Because he feels safe," she said. "That's what you gave him." "No," Parker said. "That's what we gave him." They spent the rest of the day finishing the living room, laughing through paint splatters and chasing Oliver when he tried to use a roller on the dog they'd adopted the week before, an old mutt from the shelter named Beans, who had already claimed the couch as his throne. By the time the sun dipped behind the trees and the last wall had dried, Parker stood in the doorway and let the stillness settle over him. Sierra walked up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Is it weird that I want to hang a picture already?" she asked. I thought you'd already bought 20. 30, she said. I have a problem. We'll need to get a stud finder. She looked up at him. I found one. I walked right into that one. You did, she said, laughing quietly. Come outside, he said. There's something I want to show you. She followed him out to the backyard, where the grass was still patchy and the fence needed work. But under the wide open sky, Parker had set up a string of lights across 2 ladders and a fold-out table covered with mismatched candles, a pack of takeout boxes, and a small velvet box sitting dead center. Sierra stopped walking. Parker turned to face her, hands in his pockets. I know we signed the papers, and the house is in both our names, but I haven't done this the way I want to, the way you deserve. Sierra's expression shifted, her lips parting, but she didn't speak. He stepped closer. I don't have a yacht or a villa in the south of France. Can't buy you diamonds the size of golf balls, but I can promise that you'll never face a single thing alone again, that I'll fight for you and with you. That'll tell you every day how lucky I am that your car broke down. He reached for the box and opened it. Inside was a ring. Simple, elegant. A sapphire in the center, circled by tiny white diamonds, not flashy, just right. I love you, he said. I love the way you listen, the way you show up, the way you let me be afraid and still be strong. I love the way you love Oliver. I love the way you love me. He dropped to one knee. Marry me, not because it makes sense on paper, but because you're the only future I want. Sierra covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes were bright, and she blinked hard. You idiot, she whispered. You think I wouldn't marry you even without the speech. He grinned, so is that a yes? She nodded and dropped down to her knees in front of him. That's a forever yes. Parker slipped the ring on her finger, and she launched forward, wrapping her arms around his neck and pressing her forehead to his. Oliver's voice rang out from the porch. Are you guys kissing again? Yes, Parker called back. Gross, Oliver yelled, but he was laughing. They stood up, and Sierra wiped at her cheeks. You didn't even let me get dressed up. I like you like this, Parker said. This is the you I see every day. This is the you I fell in love with. She pulled him close again. I think we should tell Oliver together. I think he already knows. Later that night, after Oliver had built a fort in the living room with every spare blanket and pillow they owned, Parker and Sierra curled up on the floor beside him, watching cartoons and eating leftover cake she'd picked up from a bakery that morning just because. Sierra rested her head on Parker's shoulder. You're my home, you always have been. I didn't know I could have this, he whispered, a life that felt like mine. You didn't find it, she said. You built it brick by brick. He looked around at the chaos of their New World paint cans, toy rockets, half-eaten frosting, and the sound of a child giggling in his sleep. It was perfect. Not because it was easy, but because it was real. And it was theirs. The backyard buzzed with the low hum of conversation and the scent of fresh-cut roses. String lights looped overhead, casting a golden glow over the long wooden tables lined with mismatched chairs. Every seat was filled. Friends, neighbors, and even a few people Parker hadn't seen in years gathered beneath the early evening sky, nursing lemonade in crystal glasses and plates of food passed from hand to hand. Oliver darted between legs like a rocket, his new blazer already grass-stained at the... Sierra stood near the garden arch Parker had built from old reclaimed wood, her bare shoulders kissed by the last rays of sun. The dress she wore was unlike anything he'd ever imagined. It wasn't flashy or overly ornate. It was soft, with lace along the edges and a neckline that made his heart beat faster without trying. She caught him staring and tilted her head slightly in a silent question. He crossed the distance between them, brushing a thumb over the back of her hand. Have it told you you look like you stepped out of a daydream? He asked. You haven't, she said, but I'll take it. You ready? I've been ready, she said. You. Since you handed me a grilled cheese and told me I was doing life all wrong. They walked hand in hand to the center of the yard, where a small platform had been set with a simple white runner. Oliver climbed up first, holding a small silver band on a pillow with the kind of solemnity only a child could manage while still chewing on a piece of gum. Parker's sister stood off to the side, officiating the ceremony with a calm warmth that made Sierra's eyes glisten. The vows weren't perfect. Parker stumbled through his, voice cracking as he tried to describe what it meant to wake up and know that love didn't have to hurt, that someone could see every broken part of you and still choose to stay. Sierra's voice trembled when she spoke about finding family in unexpected places and the quiet courage of building something real from scratch. When they kissed, Oliver whooped loud enough to startle the neighbor's cat off the fence. The evening melted into laughter and dancing. Beans, their aging dog, wandered under the tables hoping for dropped bites of cake. Parker's sister played DJ from her phone, switching between slow jazz and whatever song Oliver insisted was his favorite that week. Sierra leaned against Parker's shoulder as they swayed on the grass, barefoot now, her heels long forgotten somewhere near the porch. "Do you ever think about how different everything could have been?" she asked. "All the time," he said, "but I'm glad it wasn't. I used to think love was supposed to look like fireworks. Big, dramatic, explosive." He looked down at her, and now I think it's the way you pour milk in Oliver's cereal when you think no one's watching, or how you always check the locks twice before bed. It's quiet, steady. I never knew that's what I needed until I met you." He kissed her temple. "You gave me something to fight for again. You gave me back myself." When the guests had trickled out and Oliver had finally fallen asleep on the couch with frosting on his cheek and a flower-crowned someone made him still askew on his head, Parker and Sierra sat on the porch steps, watching the last flickers of the candles die out. Sierra laced her fingers through his. "There's something I haven't told you." He turned, instantly alert. "What is it?" She smiled, slow and certain. "I booked us a trip, not too far, just a few days. A cabin in the mountains, no cell service, just trees, a fireplace, and time." "You planned a honeymoon." "I planned a pause," she said, "before life gets busy again, before school starts and work calls and we get caught in the rhythm. I want to stop for a second and soak this in. Us." He pulled her into his arms and rested his chin on her head. "You think of everything." She tilted her face up, brushing her lips against his. "I think about you." They stayed like that for a long while, the night wrapping around them like a secret. In the weeks that followed, the house filled with the rhythm of routine. Morning cartoons, forgotten shoes by the door, art projects taped to the fridge, and the quiet certainty that no one was going anywhere. Oliver made friends in the neighborhood and insisted on building a lemonade stand even though they gave most of it away for free. Sierra started a home business designing custom events for small local venues, and word of mouth spread so quickly she had a waitlist by fall. Parker left his overnight job and picked up part-time work at a community center, teaching kids how to work with tools and build things they could be proud of. In the evenings, he came home to dinner that sometimes burned and sometimes didn't, but always ended with laughter. They fought, sometimes, about laundry, about dishes, about who had left the back door open when it rained, but even in those moments, the love never wavered. It grew. It settled into the walls of the house like another heartbeat. One quiet Sunday morning, Sierra stood in the kitchen, barefoot, holding a small stick in her hand with 2 pink lines. Parker walked in with a mug of coffee, looked at her, looked at the test, and then looked back at her. She didn't say anything. He set the mug down carefully, then crossed to her and knelt like he had the night he proposed. "Hey," he whispered, "we're ready." Her eyes filled, and she nodded without speaking. He pressed his lips to her stomach and whispered something she couldn't hear, but felt all the way in her soul. The house, once quiet and uncertain, now rang with the sound of life, of love, of something built not from perfection, but from choice, from persistence, from the kind of faith that isn't loud but unshakable. They didn't need a fairy tale. They had something better. They had each other. Forever,